You ever wanted to turn a tenon on the lathe in a way that it would fit perfectly to another piece? Well, I'm going to show you. Stick around. Welcome to the shop here at Epic Woodworking. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and that's the camera lady over there.
Hello.
What? That's a new one.
You're introducing me. I might as well greet everybody too.
All right. Well, now that you've met us, let's get to the meat of the topic. We want to talk tonight about turning tenons, and the most common application I've had for this is when joining parts like end to end. And this foot on a table leg is a treatment that I've used quite a bit over the years. This was a pattern leg for this leg where this is just ebonized to give me an approximation of how it was going to look. But this is actually solid gaboon ebony, and this is how I turned it out to work out. So it's kind of an interesting process to get these to be dead on concentric and then glue up and be beautifully connected. I'm not going to show you turning this foot though, because it's kind of a specialized thing. But I want you to see this application, and sometimes you need to lengthen parts to make longer turned elements. Here's another leg just for that I made some time ago for a little side table in butternut and walnut. This foot was joined and it's already glued on, but in the same way, but it's perfectly concentric. So another application that we've had for this when I first got introduced to it was with bedposts. Check these out. These are some of the posts that we used to make a lot of poster beds back in the 90s, and I don't know what happened to it. I guess people started getting interested. This one I actually got from Pug Moore down in North Carolina. And you know how I know? Because of the tags. He used to tag things and write on there, you know, who it was for,
That's crazy.
their address, and then he'd make a note. Make her this bed, her bed this color. Mrs. Charles Bethia in Marion, South Carolina. Here's one for Mrs. Horton. I believe I met Mrs. Horton. She was also in South Carolina. Make it in Queen in mahogany. And this one was August 13th of 87. So that was just a few years, 3 years before I met Pug. So,
that's amazing.
but he had tags like that on all his posts. He had probably 40 pattern posts like this people could come in and choose from. So it's fun to see them. But I'm showing you these. This is one that I made off of a pattern of his. This is again in mahogany. And here's a beast of a post. I made 2 of these beds at one time. And yes, that is solid, dense, genuine mahogany. A 4-inch block. This isn't sanded out. But man, there was a lot of time in this reading and cleaning it up into these joints. See, this type of piece, if it was in a factory setting, it would be pieced together. And you'd have this tenon and a mortise, so these would be glued up after. And the reason is, it's a lot easier to run the reeds right out and not do this little cleanup thing. This post, believe it or not, was turned in one solid piece. So it's close to 7.5 feet tall. And it was quite a joy to make those beds. I really did enjoy it. But I want you to see this one again from Pug. What we would often do, and it was almost for stability on the lathe, sometimes you just turn them a little shorter and piece this top section. So I was trying to see if I piece this one, but usually hide it in here. And I discovered this post. I had never taken this apart, but I discovered it was able to come apart. There was glue in there, you can see. But there he's got, I'm not sure if he did this one or one of the guys there, but that's a 7/8 inch tenon. So this post was turned in this shape, and they bored a hole as close to center. And then this was put in. Or did they bore the hole first and then turn the post? That's the secret I want to share with you for making this type of thing. We're going to bore the hole and turn the part around the hole. Then when you turn the tenon on the same center axis, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself a true alignment for no matter what parts you're putting together. So that's really the key to this whole strategy. So I want to just show you really quickly how we go about doing that. One of the difficult things about drilling holes in end grain like that is that end grain is almost like all these straw ends coming toward you. And so to put a drill bit in there and have it track and start well is not easy. The bit wants to wander a little bit, and it's hard to get it to hit exactly where you want it. So that's why we are going to drill first and then turn around the hole. So we're going to head over to lathe in a second, but I want to show you this stuff here while it's easier to see. This is just a regular drill chuck that has a number 2 Morse taper that's going to go into the lathe drive head. And I've got a 3/4 inch brad point bit in here. Normally they come in sets up to a 1/2 inch, but I bought this one special for actually drilling the holes in this bench. And I'm going to use this to drill into the end of one of these pieces of soft maple. Now I've got soft maple around because this application came up like as a possibility for turning these slender legs. Look at this. This is actually another application where you could join these legs if your lathe wasn't long enough. To me, and I've said this, it's really a shame to have to piece up a leg only 46 inches long. If you can get around not doing it, I advise that. But if you have to piece it up, then you want to keep your parts aligned and go through this process where we bore out in the center and then go for the end. This is the piece, the long back leg. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but we have these little cut marks, which were very common to cut across the key joinery points here in the slats and in the stretchers and rails down in the lower end. There's these cut lines. So you could conceivably turn this in 2 sections, like a shorter section, and then turn this in its own section and decide which side you want to put the tenon on. It really doesn't matter, but you've got to make that decision. All right, so that's a possibility as well. So I'm actually going to use some of this soft maple just to knock out a quick mortise and tenon on over at the lathe. Let me see. So we'll bore this out. We'll bore out one end here, and then we'll go about to the tape. That's a little over 1.5 inches. Then we'll use that hole as our center. Now you could use a 60-degree live center like this with a 60-degree conical live center. And once we get the hole, it will go in like that, sort of like this, but we're going to have a 3/4 inch. And it could ride in the center there. But it's a little bit, it'll work, but it's really just bearing on the lip or the edge of that. And so with compression, it loosens up fairly quickly, and you have to keep an eye on it so it doesn't get too loose. The other method is to actually turn a tenon the same size as the hole you bored, and use it as what they call a jam chuck. So we're going to use this scroll chuck. It's a 4-jaw scroll chuck, and you can clamp a block of wood in there, and then this gets mounted on the drive, and you turn this tenon. So this becomes the drive tenon, because it's going to, this tenon's going to fit right over the hole that we bore. Let's just change this out. we'll make one of these. I'll show you how this is made as fast as I can. All right, so all you need to do is chuck a block of wood, there's nothing fancy about it, into your scroll chuck. Get it seated flat. And then I want to get these jaws to bite down on it. And once those jaws bite down, it's not going to go anywhere.
Tom, Stan's asking, does this application lend itself to using a large dowel as a floating tenon?
Oh, yeah, Stan. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant to say about, thank you. It's obvious that in the example I showed here of Pug's post, that was a dowel. It was a different white kind of wood. So they clearly bored into both sides. That can work, but you've got to have a system where you know you're getting a true hole and you're in the center. So you could, if you turn off of both centers, which I think they might have done in that case, then you're fine. But you can also bore into one side and turn the tenon on the other half. So I'm going to do a true tenon. Like I said, you've got a little more variables. If you're drilling into both sides, you have a better chance of it not being exact unless you turn around those centers. All right, so true tenon, floating tenon. I'm going to show you a true tenon. Let's head over to the lathe. Let me make sure I got everything. So let's just drill a quick hole in the end here. And I'm going to use the lathe as my drive. So with that in that position, and then here, I'll use the tailstock and center here, and I'm just going to crank it up. So I'll be in the center at the other end. So I'm pretty true aligned in the axis here. But it doesn't have to be perfect, again, because we're going to turn around the center. Go back a little. Okay, I'm going to lock it in, and here we go. I'll just bring this up. I've already marked the center here. That's like we did last time, right on here. All right, I'm going to turn it on. Let's get the safety glasses on. I'm just going to drill up to that tape. Okay, so I'm going to start cranking. I might turn that down just a little bit. Okay, let's bring this back. Now I can take this out. Let's go ahead and get this off. Now I'm going to put my scroll chuck back in.
Tim's asking, would it be more stable to put the drill bit in the tailstock and the workpiece in the 4-jaw chuck to drill the hole?
It's either or, but I'm advancing. I just am more comfortable with it in the drive center, and to advance from back there once you get it started. It just feels more comfortable to me. I've tried it both ways, but sometimes that is the only option. All right, so I can set up my calipers actually to the shank of the drill bit. I'm going to set it just slightly greater so that I don't overshoot it. So let's bring up our steady rest. Now, I'm going to turn this on, and you're going to see that this block now is going to spin, but we've got that end. We might as well use it. So we can just bring up our tailstock, and we're going to just lock it in. And we can just dial in. There we are. So we've given ourselves a little more support. Probably didn't. You don't absolutely need it, but it takes the pressure off the jaws. So now we're just going to turn this down. Let's get a little closer. Okay, we're getting closer, so why don't we get some depth stops now? Here's my calipers. Okay. Okay. All right, so all right, so you can see we're close. We can check. We're a little tight, and I'm just going to turn that down just a little bit more. I'm going to use the skew to even it out. Okay. So I'm close, but I want to get a good fit here. I want it to fit on, not super tight, but just a gentle friction fit so it won't spin when it becomes the actual drive center. So as I fit it on, see I'm kind of snug. Whoops. I got a little cut on my finger. I'm like, Julia Childs. It's one of those nights. You got blood on your hand?
A little bit.
Where'd that come from?
When I walked by the chisels.
Oh,
I
no.
scraped a little bit. I'm a true carpenter. I'm a true craftsperson.
Guys, we are both spilling blood tonight. Wow, I can't believe it. I've never seen you.
I'm fine. Nothing big. I feel like I'm in the club now.
It's just a flesh wound.
It's about time. You know
It's just
what?
a
Actually,
flesh
this
wound.
is a good time to share. This is our 6th year anniversary of Shop Night Live.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow. 6 years.
And I haven't shed blood once. So there you go. 6 years. It's a charm.
I guess that must be the
Workman's comp. Yeah, that's right.
workman's comp.
I'd have
You
to be
ain't
an
getting no
employee for
claim.
that, I think.
All right, so I'm going to sand this to fit now. I'm very close. Let's just sand it a little.
This way. 6 years. Almost getting close to 300 episodes. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Wow. All right, I'm a little tight right there. I broke out the digital calipers last time. We don't have to do this, but in the course, the shaker rocker, we made our tenons last time, and I was just talking about the accuracy to fit a tenon and a mortise on these stretchers, and I can see I'm at 0.753 thousandths, right? So I want to be 0.75. I'm a little heavy there, and I'm just 0.754 right there. So I'm a little heavy. I'm just going to sand a touch off really quick. All right. hopefully that's enough. Let's see. It's close. I just want to go a touch more so I don't fight it. I don't usually break out the digital calipers. It's just kind of amusing to see where you're at. And you know,
think you could fool us, I bet.
If you were in a production setting though and making a lot of these chairs, it would be smart to have some digital calipers. All right, so that's on there. That's pretty snug, but that'll be fine for this. I'll just get it off there, I'm pretty sure. I gotta turn my blood off there. Get rid of the evidence.
Yes, Michael has mentioned using an open-handed wrench as a gauge too.
Oh yeah.
He uses that on the Shaker Rocker session.
Yeah, we used
3.
it last night. I didn't
Great
have a
idea.
3/4 inch. That was the problem.
Tuesday night, technically.
I looked for my 3/4. Thank you. I think I have one, but it wasn't in my toolbox right where I swore I left it. Wow, that looks worse than it is. Sorry, guys. It's not funny. All right, I'm going to just turn this round and I'm going to get it on this end. We'll just knock it out. And let's say this block is like 1 3/4 square. So I'm going to go down to like 1 5/8 or so. Let's just do that. Here we go.
There goes the evidence. Move on.
Close.
You want to answer an unrelated question while you're turning?
Sure.
Mike says, I bought a bunch of Macassar ebony to build 2 tables. Is working with that wood as terrible as I've read? Do you have any advice?
Solid Macassar?
Sounds like it.
And say the second part again?
Is working with that wood as terrible as I've read? Do you have any advice?
Wow. Do you know, who was that again?
Mike?
Mike, I've never, trying to remember if I've never used it in solid. I've only used the veneer. So it's not been a problem in the veneer. I mean, obviously you're just working with veneer. Okay, that's close enough. Let me just. All right, that's good enough.
Similar to Wenge?
It might be. I'm not. Wenge is a very hard fibrous wood. I think it's pretty hard, and it does have more porosity than Gaboon ebony. But see, now we've got a nice cylinder, and you get the geometry of it. We're turning it right around the mortise. So we've got a tenon, that's our axis. So we know we've got a dead center hole. So any tenon we turn on another piece to fit, if we want to have a nice smooth fit, we can turn the other piece to the same dimension here, and the tenon to a 3/4 inch tenon, and they should fit beautifully concentrically, and you'll get a nice alignment. So whether this is a little foot or trying to join posts for lengthening, It's all the same principle. I just have to do a quick turn here to get rid of the blood. I don't really have to get rid of this, but this wood.
Looks much better.
But there you go. Okay. See, now it's a nice fit. And look at that. It's beautiful. You've got a nice 3/4 inch hole concentrically in. Now, just really quickly, I'm going to just turn the mating piece to it. And we'll get our chuck in there. And so we're just going to turn a tenon on the other end of this. Say we wanted to extend this piece. Bring up our tailstock. There we go. Did anyone have any advice for the Macassar question? I'm not a... I wonder if anybody else is...
David said he was concerned that it really wasn't very good, so Mike should send it to him.
Yeah, that's what I should have said. Why didn't I think of that? Wow, that's nice. You don't find solid ebony is tough to come by.
It's a good time to tell you Russ Philbeck has been watching with his,
Oh, really?
I assume, wife, Carol. And
Hey, Russ.
She's been chatting. And
Oh, awesome.
she says Russ uses the Macassar ebony for his spoke shaves and doesn't have problems. He uses several types of ebony and they work great.
There you go.
Russ is the author of the book that we've mentioned, Tom's mentioned several times in recent episodes.
And I've highly recommended.
What's it called? Ladder.
Gosh, you have to ask me.
Ladder.
I've got it.
Back.
The ladder back chair.
Back chairs.
How to make a... Russ, please type in.
Yes, forgive us.
The
we wanna
the
get it
actual
right, so
title.
type it in, Carol, if you would.
Yeah, how to make a... I think it's a how to make a ladder back chair.
And I wonder, is that the kind of application? Would he use this kind of thing on his chairs? Probably not.
I don't think there's... Maybe with the stretchers there's some... No, it's not really like this. But
Okay.
maybe. He's not going to piece his legs. Okay, here we go.
Making ladder back chairs, yep.
There you go.
I'll put the link in the description.
Boy, I could use a little of that San Diego weather right now.
Yes.
We're just coming out of our winter depression, Russ. Getting close here. Okay, now let's just turn a tenon about, I think, 1.5 inches long. Doesn't
Carol
have to
said
be-
that Russ has used the same technique that you used on the tall bed posts.
On a what post?
On tall bed posts.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, tall bedpost, same thing. Good. Now I feel validated.
Making ladder
Whoops.
back chairs with Russ Philbeck. Yep.
Yes. Great book. Get it. I've learned a lot from it. Here we go. Oh, you know, there was one thing I forgot to mention on the other part. I got distracted. I didn't turn the shoulder. You need to turn the shoulder nice and crisply, return it in case you don't have a square end on that end of the piece. So unfortunately, I didn't do that. I'm not going to reset it up. I'll show you one that I did do that on, if in case it doesn't fit right. But let's go ahead and get this on, and then I'll turn this shoulder square, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, let's see if we can true this up a little. Okay, I'm going to make that shoulder cut now. So I'm going to come in with the skew at an angle and just try to make a nice clean square, like shearing cut. Now, it's important when you make that cut that it's square and you're not leaving a mound. This one, it looked like I left a little, yeah, see, I did that on purpose. See, if you put a straight edge on there, you don't want to see that straight edge rocking, because as you go to push up, unless the other side is hollowed, the edge is not going to seat properly. So I have to be square or slightly undercut. I try to get it as true as I can. So let's try that.
Michelle's asking if that's a bedan, B-E-D-A-N that you're using. You know what that is?
A B-E-D-A-N. I've heard that word. I'm trying to place it. What are we talking about? A tool?
I don't know. Can you explain, Michelle, what you mean by a bedan? I guess it might not be what you're using if you don't know.
I've heard the word, but I'm not sure what. It's not coming up. Okay, that's pretty close. Oh, let's check with the straight edge again. There it is, nice and flat, not rocking at all. That's what we wanted. All right, let's try to see the fit. I think I might be a little tight still, but squeaky. So let's just sand that. Did you see that? Camera ladies
It's a
riveted to the text.
bedan is a tool similar to a skew. Yes, that square tool was a bedan. Big.
Oh, okay. I didn't even
It's
know
an
the name of it.
oversized
Oh,
parting tool.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. That's what I've heard.
The extra thick parting
Yeah,
tool
see what it
you
is?
were just using.
Yeah, 3/4 inch wide. It's nice. I mean, it's so rigid that you don't get the chatter that is common with an 1/8 inch. And then obviously you can see it removes a lot of stock. Okay, thank you. I learned something. I didn't know the official name.
She says some people call it a French bedan.
Oh, wow. I'm going to get this back on the lathe just to sand that a touch more. I don't want to do it
All right, I'm getting good explanations here.
all by hand. See that? What a community. What?
Nathan says, I refuse to learn this technique because then my wife will ask why I am not using this approach rather than the permission slip from Chris to buy my new lathe.
You need the... Show her what a hassle this is and the blood you have to shed. And I think you'll get your new lathe. I vote for the lathe myself. I mean, think of all the other things you're going to make with that. It's going to be unbelievable. All right, sorry, all I have is 220 here. I should have been doing this with a 150. Okay. All right, let's go back to the bench. I'm not going to turn the rest of that. I think we've got it there. So now you see the fit. Beautiful. Look at that. It's almost seamless. So you can rotate. If you kept them aligned properly, which I did not, you might find where the grain matches exactly. Then you put a little clamp. So that's one way to get a beautiful concentric fit. And that, I mean, that at a 3/4 inch tenon, that's a nice size actually for posts like this. It feels super strong. And you'd glue it up and you'd have to get a little bit of clamping pressure on there. But with a fit like that, some good modern glues, it would stay. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it as much. But when it comes to bedposts even, I typically, the old ones were not glued up. You know, they were one piece. And if you join them here, I did see some repairs when we were in North Carolina where, you know, you'd walk around the bed or you'd lean on it or pull on it, and they did loosen up at the joints sometimes, you know, but if it's a solid post, you're never going to get that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us a little bit. I hope you enjoyed that and find some application for it down the road at least. And also, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and most of all, check out our website at epicwoodworking.com. The courses are there. This rocker is on. Love to have you there. And you can join the neighborhood. Move into the neighborhood, and you get access to all the courses. It's an unbelievable deal.
Yeah, we've also got classes and shop events. Check us out.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thanks again for hanging out with us a little bit. On behalf of the camera lady and myself, we look forward to seeing you next time right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for being with us.